The station was quiet in a way that felt heavy. Suman knew she shouldn't be here. The grown-ups were all in the big hall, talking about boring things like trade routes and peace treaties. Her aunt, Hannah, had told her to stay close, but the gleaming corridors of the Astræus were too tempting. They were like tunnels of stars. With windows showing the whole galaxy dot, she turned a corner, and the noise from the party faded completely. This corridor was different. It was warmer, with a soft glow coming from the walls. There was a door, slightly open, with a strange symbol on it that looked like a claw inside a circle. She peeked out. The room was a private lounge. It was empty, almost. On a large, low chair made of what looked like dark wood, a man's formal robe was draped. It was a beautiful, heavy thing, black and silver. But her eyes were drawn to the man himself. He stood by a huge window, his back to her, looking out at the stars. He wasn't wearing the robe. He wore only simple, dark pants, and his upper body was bare. Suman's breath caught. On his shoulder, right where it met his neck, was a mark. It wasn't a tattoo. It seemed to glow with its own soft, silver light, like a piece of the moon had been placed on his skin. It was a perfect crescent moon. She knew that mark. A small sound escaped her lips, a gasp of pure surprise. The man turned. He was tall, with a face that was both sharp and tired. His eyes, a dark brown, fixed on her. They widened slightly, not with anger, but with shock at the intrusion. This was clearly his private space. "What are you doing here, child?" His voice was deep, like stones rolling together. It wasn't unkind, but it was very serious. He reached for his robe, but Suman wasn't afraid. She was too amazed. She pointed a small finger at his shoulder. "Your mark," she said, her voice filled with the simple wonder of a 9-year-old. "My mom has the same moon mark." Time stopped. The man, Alpha King Taiyang, ruler of the Lycan Dominion and a dozen star systems, froze. His hand, halfway to his robe, fell to his side. All the tiredness, all the stern control washed from his face, replaced by something raw and stunned. The air in the room seemed to get thicker, harder to breathe. "What did you say?" The words were a whisper, but they carried the force of a command. Suman blinked, suddenly feeling the weight of his attention. On her shoulder, in the same place. "It looks just like that. It glows sometimes when she's sad." Inside Taiyang, a dam broke. For 10 long years, his wolf had been a silent, grieving ghost within him. It had curled up and gone dormant the day his fated mate, Myray, had disappeared. Her ship was lost, no bodies ever found. The wolf, a reflection of his deepest soul, had simply laid down and refused to answer his calls. He had learned to rule, to live, with only half a spirit. Now, at the sound of this little human girl's words, it woke up. It wasn't a gentle awakening. It was a volcanic eruption of sense and memory. The wolf didn't think in words. It thought in sense, in feelings, in bonds. And from this child, this small, unfamiliar human child, it caught the faintest, most impossible whisper. A scent memory. The echo of sunshine and wildflowers. A scent woven into the very heart of Myray. The wolf stood. It didn't just wake. It surged to the surface, howling a silent, internal howl of anguish and desperate hope. Taiyang's body reacted. His eyes, those dark human eyes, flashed with a burst of brilliant lupine gold. A low, involuntary rumble started deep in his chest, a sound no human throat could make. Suman took a step back, her eyes wide. She wasn't scared of the mark, but the man was changing. His presence filled the room, becoming wilder, bigger. "Your mother," Taiyang said, forcing the words out, fighting his wolf for control. The golden light in his eyes flickered. "What is her name?" "Jiang," Suman said softly. Park Ji-young. The name meant nothing, but the wolf didn't care about names. It cared about truth, and the truth it sensed from the girl was shaking their shared world to its foundations. "Where is she?" he asked, his voice gravelly. "She's at home." "On Earth?" "Well, she was." Suman's face fell a little. "She had to go away for a little while. Aunt Hannah says she's doing important work." The door to the lounge hissed open. Hannah stood there, her diplomatic smile vanishing the second she saw the scene, her niece standing before the half-dressed Alpha King, whose eyes were glowing like an animal's. Panic shot through her. "Your Majesty." "Forgive her." She wandered off. "She's just a child." Hannah rushed in, placing a protective hand on Suman's shoulder, pulling her back gently. Taeyang's golden gaze snapped to Hannah. The wolf was in charge now, its presence pressing down on the room. "This woman, Ji-young, describe her." Hannah was confused, terrified. "My sister? She looks like Suman. Same smile. She's quiet. She lives a simple life." "The mark," Taeyang demanded, ignoring everything else. "The crescent moon. On her shoulder. You have seen it?" Hannah paled. How could this alien king know about that? Jiang was private about it, always hiding it. "Why, yes. A birthmark, we always thought. She's had it since she was found." "Found?" The word was a snarl. Hannah flinched. "After the accident. The Deep Space Relay Station disaster 10 years ago. They found her in an escape pod alone. She had no memory, no identification. They named her Jiang. She was the only survivor. 10 years. The timeline was a hammer blow." Taeyang's knees felt weak. The escape pod would have been too small, too primitive for lichen sensors to identify. They had searched for lichen life signs. A human survivor, comatose and amnesiac, would have been taken to a human hospital, lost in the bureaucracy of two different civilizations. MIRAE, alive, living as a human named Jiang. With a child, his wolf was screaming, a torrent of need and grief and fury. The child, their child. The scent was there, muted by humanity, but it was there. His mate's blood. His blood. He looked at Suman, really looked at her. Not as a strange little girl, but as his own. The shape of her eyes. The stubborn set of her jaw. It was all there. He took a deep, shuddering breath, forcing the wolf back just enough to speak clearly. The gold in his eyes didn't fade, but it banked like embers. "Your sister," he said to Hannah, his voice trembling with the effort of control, "is not who you think she is. And this child." He looked at Suman, and his expression did something it hadn't done in a decade. It softened. "This child is under my protection now. We are going to Earth. Immediately." The silence in the small, secure room aboard the Astræus was louder than any alarm. Hannah held Suman close on a padded seat, her mind racing. The Alpha King Taeyang stood across from them, his back to the door. He had put his robe back on, but it did nothing to hide the power coming from him. It was like standing near a star that was trying very hard not to explode. June, the king's beta and head of security, stood by the door. His face was a careful mask, but his eyes were alert, watching his king with deep concern. He had never seen Taeyang like this. The king's wolf was so close to the surface that the air felt charged, like before a storm. "Start from the beginning," Taeyang said. His voice was low, but it vibrated in the small space. He was looking at Suman, not Hannah. His golden eyes were fixed on the little girl. "Tell me about your mother. Everything you remember." Suman, nestled against her aunt, felt less scared now. The man's eyes were strange, but they didn't feel mean. They felt hungry for information. "She's nice," Suman began simply. She smiles a lot, but sometimes she looks at the sky and gets quiet. She works in a garden. She grows flowers that glow in the dark. She said she found the seeds a long time ago. Tai Yang closed his eyes for a second. My Ray had loved gardens. The royal gardens on Lyra Prime. She had a gift for making rare things grow. His wolf let out a silent, pained whine inside him. What does she do when she's sad? He asked. She hums, Suman said. A song without words. And she touches her shoulder, right where the mark is. The girl mimicked the gesture, her small hand patting her own shoulder. The song. Tai Yang knew that song. It was an old lichen lullaby, one sung to Pops. He had hummed it to her once, a lifetime ago. The pain in his chest was sharp, and real Hana found her voice. Your Majesty, please. What is this about? My sister is a quiet woman. She was injured. She has no past, this mark. It's just a unique birthmark. The doctors said so. Your doctors are wrong, Tai Yang said, turning his gaze to her. The force of his attention made Hana shrink back. That mark is not human. It is the royal mark of the lichen moon. It appears only on the fated, mate of the ruling Alpha. It is a bond written in blood and spirit. It appeared on my skin the day I met my mate. And it appeared on hers. He paused, the words hanging in the air. My mate's name was Myray. Her ship was destroyed in a border incident 10 years ago. No survivors were found. We searched. Hannah's blood ran cold. The timeline. The accident. Jiang's arrival. It fit together in a horrifying way. But Jiang is human, she whispered, the protest weak even to her own ears. She is lichen, Tai Yang stated, absolute certainty in his tone. Her wolf would have been deeply buried after such a trauma. The mind protects itself. It hid her true nature, even from her. He looked back at Suman. You said she had to go away. Tell me. Suman's lower lip trembled. She got a message on her tablet. She looked scared. She packed a small bag. She hugged me extra hard and said she had to fix something from a long time ago. She said she loved me and to be good for Aunt Hannah. Then she left. When? The word was a command. 3 days ago, Hannah answered, her professional mind finally engaging through the shock. She didn't say where. She just vanished. I reported it to local security, but with the summit and her being an adult, they said they would look into it. Tai Yang's control snapped. A growl, pure and animal, ripped from his throat. June stiffened by the door. The king's hands clenched into fists, the claws extending slightly, piercing the palms of his own hands. A drop of silver-flecked blood fell to the floor. She is not missing. She is in danger. He began to pace, a caged predator. If she is remembering, if her wolf is stirring, others could sense it. Those who wished her gone 10 years ago would wish it doubly so now. He stopped and pointed a claw-tipped finger at June. Prepare my ship. We leave for Earth within the hour. No diplomatic entourage. A stealth runner. Just us. June nodded. The council, Your Majesty. They will protest. You leaving the summit, let them protest. Tai Yang roared, the sound shaking the walls. His wolf was in his eyes, in his voice. My mate is alive. My child is here. There is no summit, no treaty, no kingdom that matters beside that. He took a heaving breath, struggling for composure. When he spoke again, it was quieter, but no less fierce. Tell them I have found a thread leading to the traitors who attacked Maray's ship. It is not a lie. We are finishing a war they think is long over. June bowed deeply and left the room to make the arrangements. Tai Yang turned back to the two humans. Hannah looked terrified. Sumin looked fascinated, staring at his now retracted claws. "You will both come with me," he said. It was not a request. "We can't." Hannah said, "I have duties." "Sumin needs to be in school." "Your duty is to your family," Taiyang interrupted. "The girl is a target now. Her scent is connected to my ray. If our enemies find her, they will use her to get to her mother, or worse. On my ship, she is under my protection. On Earth, she is vulnerable." He knelt down slowly, bringing himself to Sumin's eye level. It was a strangely gentle movement from such a powerful being. "Sumin, I believe your mother is my lost friend. My very best friend. I need to find her and keep her safe. To do that, I need your help. Will you help me?" He didn't order. He asked. His gold eyes had softened to a warm amber. Sumin looked at him, then at her aunt's worried face. She thought of her mom's scared expression when she left. She nodded. "Okay." A weight seemed to lift from Taiyang's shoulders. He stood. "Good. June will take you to the ship. You will be safe there?" As Hana, numb with disbelief, led Sumin out, the little girl turned at the door. "Mr. Alpha King?" she asked. He looked at her. "Yes?" "Your Volf," she said, tilting her head. "Is he nice?" The question was so innocent, so direct, it cut through the storm in him. For the first time in 10 years, the ghost of a smile touched his lips. "He is. Fierce. And he has been very sad for a very long time. But he likes you. He says you smell like hope." Sumin gave a small smile back and let her aunt lead her away. Alone in the room, Taiyang sagged against the wall. He placed a hand over his heart, where his wolf was pacing with restless, desperate energy. The hole that had been in his soul for a decade was still there, but now it was filled with a wild, painful hope. "We found her," he whispered to the beast within. "We have a daughter. Now we bring our mate home." The wolf howled in agreement, a sound of pure, determined longing that echoed in the deepest parts of his spirit. The hunt was on. The ship was a sleek, dark thing called the Shadow's Reach. It didn't look like a king's ship. It looked fast and dangerous. Inside, it was quiet and clean. Sumin was wide-eyed, touching the smooth walls. Hannah sat stiffly, still trying to understand that her quiet sister was an alien queen from a story. Taiyang was different on the ship. The royal mask was gone. He moved with a tense, ready energy. His wolf was right below his skin, its presence making the lights seem brighter, the shadows deeper. He stood on the command deck, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. His homeworld was a jewel of blue and green, but he saw only one person on it. June stood beside him, speaking quietly. "I have sent a coded message to our only loyal contact in the Earth Security Directorate. A man named Doyan. He is a friend of Hannah's. He knows to be discreet." "Good," Taiyang said, his voice a low rumble. "We cannot trust my own people here. The ones who betrayed my ray and are still out there. They will be watching for any sign of her or of me." They landed not at a major spaceport, but at a private hangar on the outskirts of the megacity that had once been called Seoul. It was night, and the rain fell in cold, gray sheets, painting the neon lights in smears of color. A man was waiting for them inside the hangar, sheltered from the rain. He was young, with a sharp, careful face. He bowed to Hannah first. "Hannah, you didn't tell me your family troubles were this." "Galactic." His eyes flicked to Taiyang, and he gave a respectful, but not deep, nod. "Your Majesty, I am Investigator Doyan. Hannah vouches for you, and her word is good with me. Tell me what you need." Doyan led them to a secure vehicle. As they drove through the wet, crowded streets, Taiyang explained. He didn't say mate or lichen. He said, Jiang was a missing person with vital information about a past crime against his people. It was close enough to the truth. Doyun listened, his face growing serious. Jiang. She always was a mystery. Too calm. Knew things about plants and stars she shouldn't. He pulled up data on a tablet. Her last financial trace was a ticket to the coastal town of Pohang. But that's a dead end. She never used it. She vanished before she got on the train. So where did she go? Hana asked, leaning forward. I ran a wider search, Doyan said. Energy signatures. There was a small, unauthorized shuttle launch from an old industrial zone in the mountains, east of here. The same night she disappeared. The signature was masked, but it had irregularities. Frequencies not used in human tech. Taiyang's growl was soft, but filled the car. Lycan stealth tech, low grade, used by mercenaries and rebels. His claws pricked against his own leg. They didn't take her from her home. They arranged a meeting. She went to them willingly. She was remembering. She was trying to confront her past. The idea made his blood run cold. Ray, alone, her memories returning in pieces, walking into a trap set a decade ago. Doyun drove them to the mountains. The industrial zone was a skeleton of old factories being reclaimed by forest. The rain had softened to a drizzle. The building they stopped at looked abandoned. But Doyan pointed to the ground. Fresh tire marks. Heavy vehicle. Taiyang was out of the car before it fully stopped. He didn't need a light. His golden eyes pierced the gloom. He could smell it now, over the rain and oil and rust. Faint, so faint. Wildflowers and sunshine, tinged with fear. Ray. And under that, the bitter metallic scent of male lichens. 2 of them. Rogue wolves. He followed the scent like a line of fire. It led to a back room that looked empty. But his wolf pushed at him. He ran his claws along a seam in the wall. A hidden door hissed open, revealing a small, high-tech lab. It was not a medical lab. It was a forensic lab. On a central table, under a light, lay a single object. A silver bracelet. It was simple, elegant, and ended in a clasp shaped like a crescent moon. Taiyang's breath left him. He picked it up with trembling hands. It was cool. He pressed a hidden point on the clasp. A tiny hologram flickered to life. It was Ray, younger, her hair shorter, smiling. His Ray. The recording was silent, just her face, smiling, then blowing a kiss before it faded. It was a data drive, June said from behind him, examining a disconnected console. They were trying to crack its encryption. It's royal grade. It would have her memories, her logs, proof of her identity. They were verifying it was her, Taiyang said, his voice deadly quiet. Before they disposed of her for good. He closed his fist around the bracelet, the metal bit into his palm. She must have brought it to try and understand. They took it from her. Sumin had come in with Hana. She saw the bracelet in Taiyang's hand. That's Mom's, she whispered. She never takes it off. She said it was the key to her heart. Taiyang knelt and showed it to her. It is. She gave her heart to me, a long time ago. This held a piece of it. He stood, turning to Doyun, the coastal ticket. It was a false trail. For us. They knew if she was missed, we might look. They wanted us to go to Pohang. So where is she? Hana asked, desperation in her voice. Taiyang closed his eyes. He let his wolf breathe in the scent of the room. Fear, anger, his mate's scent. And something else. A faint, salty tongue. Not from here. An echo on the rogue's clothes. The sea. Taiyang and June said at the same time. The ticket was the wrong town, but the right idea, June added. She would go to water. to a place that felt safe. Lichens have a pull to large bodies of water when stressed. It's in our blood. Doyun was already typing on his tablet. There's a tiny, almost abandoned fishing village on the east coast. Not Pohang. A place called Jeongjin. No traffic cams. No records. It's just old. Taiyang looked at the bracelet in his hand, then at Sumin's worried face. The wolf inside him was no longer just grieving. It was angry. It was hunting. They have her scent. They are hunting her too. We are in a race. He strode towards the door, his form seeming to grow larger in the dark room. We go to Jeongjin. Now. Every second we waste is a second they get closer to her. As they rushed back to the car, the rain began to fall harder, as if the sky itself was weeping for what was lost, and for the storm that was coming to bring it home. The village of Jeongjin was not a place. It was a memory. A cluster of old, salt-bleached houses, clinging to dark rocks where the gray sea met the gray sky. The air was thick with the smell of salt, fish, and wet stone. No one came out to greet them. Only a few lights flickered behind foggy windows. Taiyang stepped out of the car, and the sea wind hit him. It whipped at his clothes. He closed his eyes and breathed in deeply, letting his wolf free. The beast surged into his senses, filtering out the human smells, the oil, the decay, and there it was wildflowers and sunshine. Weaker now, tangled with fear and salt, but pure. My ray, it was a thread pulling him forward, down a slippery path towards the water's edge. He didn't wait for the others. He moved, a dark shape flowing over the rocks with a predator's grace. June followed, his own senses sharp. Hannah, Doyun, and Sumin hurried behind, struggling on the uneven ground. The scent led to a small, half-collapsed boathouse, tucked into a crack in the cliffs. The door was a piece of warped wood, hanging crooked. Taiyang stopped. He could hear a heartbeat inside. Slow, tired, scared. He could smell blood. Old blood. His own heart hammered against his ribs. "My Ray?" he called, his voice rough, barely more than a whisper. The door creaked open. The woman who stood there was Jiyoung. She wore simple, worn clothes, her hair tied back. She was pale, and there was a healing cut on her cheek. But her eyes, as they found Taiyang, were not Jiyoung's eyes. They held a universe of memory, of pain, and of a dawning, impossible recognition. He saw the moment she knew him, not as the Alpha King from the news feeds, but as him, the man from her dreams, the ghost in her lost songs. Taiyang? The name fell from her lips, a broken sound lost in the wind. It was a name she hadn't spoken in 10 years. A shudder went through him. His wolf howled in triumph and agony. He took a step forward, his hand outstretched. "My Ray." She flinched, her hand flying to her temple, as if struck. It's all coming back. The ship, the light, the cold you. You were crying. She looked at him, her eyes flooding with tears. You were crying for me. He was across the space in an instant, but he didn't grab her. He stopped just before her, his own eyes burning. He slowly lifted the silver bracelet. You left the key to your heart. She touched the bracelet, then his hand. A spark, a connection, jolted through them both. The bond, dormant and shattered, flickered to life like a dying star finding its fuel again. A sharp, warning growl from June shattered the moment. From the rocks above, 3 figures dropped down. They were lichens, but they wore no royal insignia. Their clothes were rough, their faces hard. The leader, a man with a cruel scar across his brow, smirked. His name was Kyung. Well, Kyung said. The lost puppy found her master. and the master was foolish enough to come without his army. Taiyang moved instantly, pushing Mirei behind him. His body shifted, not fully, but enough. His shoulders broadened, his teeth lengthened, a low, continuous growl tearing from his throat. His eyes blazed pure gold. Kyung, I should have known the trader's dog would be on this hunt. The old king was weak, Kyung spat. You are weak. Letting a human-loving female dilute our bloodline. We cleaned up your mess once. We'll finish it now. Starting with her and the half-breed child. He said the last word just as Hana and Doyan came around the corner with Sumin. Kang's eyes locked on the girl. The pup, perfect. No. Mirei's voice was not a shout. It was a command, ringing with a power she hadn't used in a decade. It was the voice of a queen, but Kyung was already moving. He didn't go for Taiyang. He lunged, a blur of speed, toward Sumin. Chaos erupted. June intercepted one of the other rogues, their bodies crashing together in a snarl of fangs and claws. Doyan pulled Hana back, trying to shield Sumin, but Kyung was too fast. Sumin stared at the monstrous man coming for her. A deep, instinctual fear rose in her. But it wasn't a human fear. It was the fear of a cub caught in the open. And with that fear came something else. A warmth, a power, a need to defend. A soft golden light shimmered around her small form. It wasn't fierce like Taiyang's. It was gentle, protective. And from within that light, a small silvery wolf form flickered, half real, wrapping itself around her like a living shield. It was her wolf, not fully formed, but awake and answering the threat. Kyung hesitated for a split second. Shocked by the manifestation dot, it was all Taiyang needed. He didn't hold back. He let the change take him. Bones cracked and reformed. Fur the color of moonlight erupted from his skin. In the space of a breath, where a man had stood was a massive, magnificent silver wolf, larger than any natural beast, his eyes like twin suns. He moved like lightning. He slammed into Kyung, throwing him away from Sumin and against the rock wall with a sickening crunch. The other rogue, seeing his leader fallen, turned to flee, but June, now also in his powerful tawny wolf form, was on him. The fight was brutal and short. Taiyang's wolf was not just fighting. It was avenging 10 years of loneliness. It was protecting its mate and its pup. When it was over, Kyung lay unconscious, broken, and the other rogue was subdued by June. The third had fled into the mist. Taiyang shifted back. He was breathing hard, blood on his hands, but his eyes went first to Sumin. The light around her faded, her small wolf form retreating inside, leaving her looking tired and confused. He knelt before her. You are strong, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Your wolf is kind. It only wants to protect. Like your mother. Then he turned to Amira. She was watching him, all the broken pieces of her past finally fitting together. She saw the king, the warrior, the man who had wept for her. She stepped forward, no longer flinching. She reached out and touched the moon mark on his shoulder. Then she pulled aside her own collar, revealing its twin, glowing softly in the dim light. I remember, she whispered, tears streaming freely. I remember the gardens. I remember the twin moons. I remember you whispering that song. She began to hum it, the old lullaby, shaky but true. Taiyang pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair. He shook, not with power, but with relief so profound it was like pain. His mate was in his arms. His wolf, finally, was at peace, curled around the heart of its pack. Under the weeping sky, a family that had been lost in the stars was found again by the sea. The throne room of the lichen palace was made of white stone that held the light of the planet's twin moons. It was a place of power and cold beauty. Today it felt like a cage. Taiyang stood before the high seat, not sitting. My Ray stood beside him, her hand in his. She wore simple lichen garments, blue and silver, but she stood with a straight back and quiet eyes that saw everything. Sumin held her other hand, peeking out at the crowd of fierce, elegantly dressed lichens who filled the room. Their scents were a storm of anger, curiosity, and distrust. Hana and June stood nearby. Doyan had returned to Earth, his job done. The captured rogue, Kyung, was in the deepest prison, his confession ringing in Taiyang's ears. The conspiracy was bigger than one jealous lieutenant. It reached into the highest families, the ones who thought a human-touched queen would make their people weak. An elder, a man with a severe face named Lord Seok, stepped forward. His voice echoed, "My king, we rejoice at your safe return. But you bring complications. This woman, this human, claims to be my Ray, returned from the dead, and a child of unknown origin stands as heir? Our laws are clear. The bloodline must be pure. The trauma of the past cannot append our future." Taiyang's growl was soft, but silenced the murmurs. "She is not this woman. She is your queen. Her blood is as pure as any here. The mark does not lie." He looked at my Ray. She gave his hand a small squeeze and let go. She took one step forward alone. "I am my Ray," she said, her voice clear, carrying without shouting. It was the voice from the boathouse, the voice of command. I was attacked and left for dead for believing our people could be more than just claws and teeth, for believing we could build bridges, not just walls. I have lived as a human. I have raised a daughter among them. I have seen their strength, their heart. It does not make me weak. It makes our people's future stronger." A younger lord sneered. "Pretty words. But the child? She is a hybrid, a half-breed. She manifested a wolf on Earth, they say, but it is a feeble thing. Can she even fully shift? Can she lead?" Before Taiyang could roar his answer, a small sound came from the floor. Sumin had let go of her mother's hand. She was looking at the sneering lord. She didn't look afraid. She looked curious. She walked a few steps toward the center of the room, her small shoes quiet on the stone. All eyes turned to her. The pressure of their gazes was immense, a physical weight. "Mr. Lord," Sumin said, her high voice ringing in the quiet. "My wolf is small. It doesn't like to fight. It likes to protect. When that bad man came for me, my wolf didn't want to bite him. It wanted to make a shield to keep my mom safe." She looked around at all the fierce faces. Isn't that what an alpha is supposed to do? Not just be the strongest fighter, but the best protector? The question, so innocent and so sharp, hung in the air. It was not an argument about blood or law. It was about the very heart of what it meant to lead. Several of the younger council members, those tired of old feuds, looked thoughtful. Lord Seok was unmoved. Childish philosophy. Strength is what keeps the throne. "Then let us speak of strength," Taiyang said, his tone final. "The strength of the traitor Kyung, who you welcomed in your halls, is broken. The strength of the conspiracy that festered while my mate was lost is now exposed. And my strength." He looked at my Ray, then at Sumin, and back to the council. "My strength has returned. It was not gone. It was waiting for its heart to come home." He finally moved to his throne and sat. But he did not sit alone. He held out his hand. My Ray came and sat in the smaller throne beside him, the queen's throne that had been empty for a decade. Then Taiyang reached his other hand down. "Sumin," he said. The little girl walked up the steps. He didn't put her on a throne. Instead, he lifted her and placed her sitting on the broad arm of his chair, right between the king and queen. A place for a beloved child. A living symbol. You question her place? Taiyang said, his arm around his daughter. Look at her. She is the bridge. She is proof that we can adapt, that we can survive, that we can love beyond our own kind and become more, not less. She is my heir, and she will learn to rule not just from me, but from the human courage of her mother and from her own gentle, protecting heart. This is not a debate. This is your future. The silence that followed was different. The anger was draining away, replaced by a stunned acceptance. The sight was too powerful to deny. The mighty Alpha King, the returned queen, and the small girl who looked at the crowd not with fear, but with a calm, observing kindness. The family was a complete unit, unbreakable. Lord Seok opened his mouth, then closed it. He gave a slow, deep bow, not just to the king, but to the queen, and to the child on the arm of the throne. One by one, the others followed. Later, under the twin moons on a high palace balcony, the family was alone. The political storm was not over, but the first and hardest battle was won. Sumin was sleepy, leaning against her mother. Mei Rei stroked her hair, humming the old lullaby. Taiyang watched them, the warmth in his chest a feeling he thought he'd forgotten. He is calm now, Mei Rei said softly, looking at Taiyang. She meant his wolf. He is home, Taiyang said. He placed a hand on Sumin's head, then reached over to take Mei Rei's hand. Their moon marks, faintly visible, seemed to pulse with a soft, synchronized light. Down below, the sprawling silver city of their people glittered. Ahead, there would be more challenges. There would be those who still resisted. There would be lessons for Sumin, and memories for Mei Rei to fully reclaim. But on that balcony, under the light of two moons, the hole in the universe was finally mended. The king had his queen. The wolf had his mate. And the little girl, who had once spoken a simple truth to a lonely king, had found not just a mother, but a father, and a whole new world to protect. The story was no longer about what was lost. It was about what had been found.